The new Fortnite Remix season and the loot pool has completely changed the meta for solo cash cups, and there's some really important information I'm going to cover in this video if you guys need to know. If you want to get your first earnings or you just want to improve your placements in solo cash cups, this video is perfect for you. I'm going to be taking a look at Chloe, who's able to get their very first earnings in the first cash cup of the season with some new strategies from the fighting masterclass that they're going to be showing as well. If you stick around through the full video as well, Chloe was nice enough to leak an entire page of notes that she made before she got her first earnings that are going to be really invaluable for you guys who are trying to grind this season. Let's get straight into this with off spawn. First things first, for Chloe's off spawn right here, they're landing at Lazy Lake and they go ahead and try to just get info straight away off spawn, which is so important. Look where people are on visual sound effects, look if there's anybody going in nearby splits around you, and then go ahead and base your loot path and your initial sort of off spawn strategy on what that info tells you. And since there's a player landing up to their north right here and there's players landing down at these back buildings, it's probably a good call to just get out of Lazy Lakes and not faff around in the middle where you're just going to get pinched from multiple sides. Exactly what they do. They get a purple spaz first chest because of course it's Benji's all POI, so they get some Benji RNG, which definitely helps. And then they go ahead and get the car, which is, you know, added in for whatever reason, and then disengage straight out the POI and prioritize mats. And this is so important, guys. Just because you're landing at, you know, retail, for example, doesn't mean you need to actually sit there and play your entire game from retail. You can easily just leave a POI, loot up a nearby split that's uncon that you scouted, and it's going to give you so much more loot because of course you get that initial building's worth of loot or whatever you're able to grab, and then you can go ahead and disengage, get mushrooms, save your big pots, for example, get loads of extra loot while you're looting up in the surrounding area as well. Then what Chloe goes ahead and does is, after doing that initial off spawn scrap looting in the Lazy Lake area, they go ahead and rift and just scout out nearby areas for a loot or something that might be uncon, or just trying to farm up metal, since you obviously need to get cat metal before endgame. It's a really good idea to rift, scout out somewhere uncon and do that. And also while they're up here farming metal, able to find a grappler. If you guys aren't able to find a grappler, I would highly recommend trying to key for one or just scrap loot as much as possible. Go through POIs, go through loads of old chest spawns and try to find one, since it is so key for success in the current meta. And then this is sort of the optimal loadout that I would say you should have. You should definitely be running a spray weapon, in my opinion. Just having success in solos is so important, as well as an upgraded gun. I would highly recommend, after you found a grappler, is always trying to upgrade your shotgun. I'll leave a map on screen right here where you can see all of the upgrade stations on the map. It is so important that you guys try to upgrade and then focus on refarming your mats and getting a good zone position after, which makes the game so much easier. There's really no more point, in my opinion, trying to play out a full solo endgame with a green pump play. You're just not going to have success or have a chance of getting easy refreshes with that weapon. And of course, as soon as they go ahead and get cat mats and that grappler, they prioritize getting good position, they get the helicopter up onto the hill right here, as well as they box up the pad. And now, especially with these zone pools, this is going to be a very easy game. Solos is literally all about setting yourself up for success and the least mistakes possible as early as you can. But we'll go take a look at some fighting from opens for you guys. Right here, as you can see, Chloe obviously needs to actually fight for some loot. In this case, they have really good mats and, you know, decent heals. However, they're missing a lot of grappler charges. They used a lot already, and they've only got a grey pump as well, which isn't really ideal. So they need to go ahead and get in some type of fight before endgame if they want a chance of having a really good placement here, you know, like a top 5 or a top 3 or something like that. They need to get some type of mid-game elim. The key thing though is you shouldn't just look for anybody to fight. Like, you shouldn't be fighting everybody. You should instead wait for a good opportunity to fight. And that's exactly what happens here. They get some white tags onto this opponent and they catch a really nice free fight on a zone pool where there's not too many people that can third party them, since their zone is pulling. Everybody's gonna be rotating to zone, and they go ahead and take this fight right here. And the key thing is though, you don't want to turn a fight like this into a long drawn out, you know, build fight like this other player is trying to do. Whenever somebody's low, they're going to try to turn it into a build fight, since it plays into their strengths. And what you want to try to do is avoid that. So they go for a chop out play and then a pump, and they miss their pump, and then they do a very nice play right here, which uses the sprint into the swap angle, as you can see, and they're able to get a really free kill and get the pump upgrade, as well as a little bit of the mats back. And now they're in a really good position to play out this game. Also, they're able to get a llama, since now llamas move around. If you guys didn't know that, llamas actually now, whenever zone hits them, they move into zones. They basically spawn in, so you can easily find llamas later on. And they put themselves into this really good position, edge of zone, refarm their metal, get a new grappler, and they spot somebody else coming into zone who didn't do an early rotate. And this is one thing you can always do in opens, is just find free kills on people who aren't in the best position possible. As you can see, this guy's literally just about to die to storm, and Chloe's able to get a free kill on them as they come in. And now it's a really free situation where they get the same amount of loot and they're completely stacked up for the rest of this game. And opens fighting, just because you guys have got the fighting masterclass, for example, you don't need to be keying absolutely everybody. Instead, only go for fights when you absolutely need them, and it plays into your strengths in terms of helping you qualify, so you have a chance of earning in finals. Unless you're just trying to practice your fighting as much as possible, then go ahead and just W key as many people as you want. But instead, you should be trying to use your fighting skills in a way that helps you achieve your goals of getting better as a player. Also, as promised in the description, here's the full page of notes that Chloe was kind enough to share with me for you guys for this video. It includes all the videos that she watched before she got her first earnings from the fighting masterclass, the key notes that she took down, as well as her full routine that includes some teasers of what you get inside the fighting masterclass and all the things that you guys will be learning if you do decide to get it. If you're not sure how to take your notes whenever you're watching an educational type video, this is an absolutely perfect way of doing it. Keep it as concise as possible and make sure you actually focus on what your outcome is from whatever you've learned. Now, one of the biggest things that people always struggle with in solo finals is rotating these absolutely max distance H zones that you get. So as you can see, this zone is entirely max and you can't even get inside it just yet because it's the new type of H zone, but it goes entirely out rather than half in. And what does Chloe do on the zone? Immediately goes early and just gets distance created from backside, from this congested side right here with the grappler. And it is so important you guys learn this in solos. If you get a max zone, literally just insta grapple and then spam wood behind you, block off your angles and ramps and go ahead and keep on going so you do not get caught up on that back congested side. And you might have to waste a little bit more mats doing these types of rotates, especially if people follow you and they shoot you in the back. However, it's so much better to now be wasting mats in this position where you're basically halfway done with the zone rather than being the entire way back. And of course, since they're on that nice early timing, they keep the early timing momentum up. They get towards these trees right here and they do a little bit of a Tarzan strat, which you guys can find inside the Solos Masterclass 6.0. Resubbed did a video on this, but basically just refarming trees as much as possible as you come into zones. And now they're in a really good position, not just to hold people backside, but to get into zone nice and early, which is going to allow them to look for a refresh and also not have that risk where you're grappling in and you get cracked and then suddenly loads of people are fighting. If you're able to get into the zone first, it's normally really good. However, here they do get beamed by a player behind them and the other player decides to key them. And what does Chloe do straight away? Immediately makes a 2x1, as you can see right here, gets the mini off and then straight away looks for a counter peek. This is one of the biggest things that people make mistakes with, is after they pop one heal, they always try to pop that second heal, which you never really should do. Instead, you should use that advantage where the other person's going to have their pickaxe out and immediately try to get some counter piece. Exactly what Chloe does. They get that nice little timing shot as the other person breaks their floor. Does a nice edit right here, playing the range advantage of the shotgun, as you can see. Even though it's not the best peak ever for them, they're a little bit exposed. It plays the range advantage versus attack, allows the other person to get hit to low HP. And now they're getting sprayed, they're the one getting pressured because Chloe is early in zone. They've got the mountain behind them, they can't get focused. And this allows them an absolutely maxi refresh, as you can see. And they make the really correct call here of playing single gun only, especially since there's no more surge. It's only 24 up. You normally get surge in solo finals anyway. They make the correct call, which is trading the pump and AR for the single purple tack, as well as getting all of those floppers or slurpfish from the other player who's obviously used vending machines to get all of those. If you guys don't know, vending machines, especially the purple ones, are insanely broken. If you get like a wood for slurpfish vending machine, you definitely should use that. Even for hard mats, it's definitely worth it because these are the best heals. And now they've got an ideal loadout for winning this game. So let's take a look at how you should be playing end games to get your first earnings. Alright guys, I have kind of a controversial take about this current season's meta that I want you guys to leave a comment down below when we get to it right here. So as you can see, Chloe is just doing some very simple grappler rotates and they do this really nice play, which is spotting out some old builds that are on a high layer, and they do this really nice play, which is grappling up onto these old builds and they go for high ground right here. And leave a comment down below, do you think Chloe should try to play high ground in this situation? As you can see, there's nobody else on it. Ignore her loadout because obviously she doesn't have an AR, but just if you were in this situation and you had like a regular loadout, would you play high ground at this point in time? It's first moving, end of first moving, and you've got 800 mats. And personally, I think you should never play high ground this early in this current season. As you can see, they think about it, they're like, it's definitely free, but they make the correct call, which is not playing height. The issue with playing height is, of course, you might save a little bit of materials and not get griefed by people. However, the issue is people are just going to get grappled onto you the entire end game. You're going to get spam grappled on, you're going to get jumped on from all sorts of angles, you're going to get pumped from who knows where, and you're going to have a really hard time of holding height. Guys, do not take height until final moving, in my opinion, this season. It's really not worth it. It's so much easier to win the game from mid ground and just have really simple bouncer and grappler rotates and save your mats that way. And all you need is just one good refresh on mid ground, like a refresh before you completely run out of materials and the other player completely runs out of materials. So like an early refresh like they do here, and you can have a really easy time of winning the game. As you can see, what's going up on high ground, the other player is having a nice time. They're getting chopped over and over, which is exactly what would have happened to Chloe. They're getting disconnected out over and over by the minigun player and the drum gun player. All sorts is going on. They're using all their materials, they're getting grief constantly, and they go ahead and die, which is, I think, exactly what happened with Chloe, no matter how well she was able to hold the high ground. Instead, what they're doing is having really nice rotates. Like, take a look at this rotate right here, using the bouncer to save her grappler charges for later when she does want to use them for like maybe a high ground take later on. And instead, they're playing a nice mid-ground game, they're saving a lot of materials, and they're going for a nice early refresh with the purple tag. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes for going for refreshes is they're always trying to think, you know, wall to wall. So if there's somebody boxed up next to you that you can smack on, which obviously can work, however, the other person is just probably going to be good enough at box fighting to avoid it. Or they think, let me smack on somebody's top, which again isn't the most realistic to get a refresh. The other person has like floor cones normally, or they'll just edit their cone themselves and protect themselves. So that's quite unlikely. Instead, what you guys should do is look for people's bottoms from underneath. As you can see, look through their floor. The main reason being is you can get info really easily. So this guy's popping a mini, which you can see through the floor, and Chloe's able to get them in their cone when they moved into it as well. And now all they need to do is get the full box so the guy can't go anywhere, smack down. A little bit of a mistake to smack while being so exposed, probably should have shot it out, and they get hit to low HP in return, but they're able to go ahead and get the crack on the opponent. And now this is when they do a really smart peek, and it's one peek I want you guys to learn for refreshes, which is this sitting completely behind the cone. Makes it impossible for the guy to pre-aim where you are unless they have really good movement. It's very unlikely you die in this situation, and Chloe's able to get that free kill behind the cone. Genuinely one of the best peeks in the game, and Vico does it a lot as well. If you guys are looking for a pro to learn from, Vico does that peek an insane amount, and it's really good to do. Now they make the correct call, just making some space, taking a second to just have a breather and, you know, figure out what they're doing in terms of heals, what they want to be carrying, which is, you know, get themselves 200 HP. And now they begin the nice simple job of scouting out how they're going to rotate. So just doing very simple grapple rotates, not doing anything too fancy, just playing mid-ground for a second, and they're going to think about how they can win this game. They just got their refresh. They obviously have the heals to win the game. 4 medkits is more than enough at the moment to win the game, but they need to be in the correct position to win the game, which is exactly what they're going to aim for here. They get themselves into a high mid-ground layer, and they start scouting out height and looking up. And this is when they execute one of the best height takes I think you guys can do at the moment in the current season. What they do is pre-top, use a lot of their mats to get info and just have an scout around, and then start figuring out where zone could potentially play. And as you can see, high ground is way up backside, and of course what's happening to height, they're getting griefed because it's too early to go for height. They're getting griefed out, as you can see. And what does Chloe do? They spot the opportunity where height is getting griefed. They can hear somebody shooting and chopping out height, and as soon as zone pulls, they go front side onto the old builds just like they did earlier. And now the timing for going for height is 100% worth it, because as you can see, nobody up on the backside height, they're front side, and even if they've got very minimal builds, they have a very easy time of playing this high ground, because the zone is so much smaller now. It's a lot harder for people to just grapple straight onto you without you having awareness. Instead, they have full awareness on where the people on second height are, and also there's not that many people alive. There's only 6 people alive. It makes it much easier to figure out where these players are and to fight them at the correct time, which is exactly what Chloe's going to do. Blocks off this player, so the guy's trying to grapple up and fight. Make sure to maintain high ground and also get damage back at the same time, which is so important, not just building over and over. Now they get the chop out, and the other player's forced to drop down to mid ground, as you can see when they're getting chopped out. And this is one thing, don't just chop out straight away. Always try to bait your chops for a second to see if the opponent's going to move and, you know, actually fall down early, or if they're going to go ahead and try to pump you in the side or something. Always be aware of that while you're chopping. Don't just continuously smack your pickaxe with zero awareness. Now they go ahead and just play nice and slow on the back side of high ground, and this is actually make a fairly interesting call, I would say, to go early over here. And I think this is a small mistake. They should have just stayed backside for a second and then gone over here if they were to get chopped. However, they decided to go over, use a little bit of materials going back into their zone, and this is when it gets a little bit sketchy and they get caught into the situation where they run out of no mats. However, the key thing in these situations is to not panic and start playing medkits early, which is what people always tend to do. They just like, oh, I've run out of mats, let me play medkits. And instead, just to play with your shotgun out, especially when people are in these situations, they're always going to be low. They're not going to be worried about, you know, shooting back in a lot of situations. Instead, what Chloe does is focus on getting damage onto this player onto height. They get the crack, and now they get the storm grapple, shotgun chop out, gets all the materials, and now they've got a really easy time of trying to win this game. All they need to do is not mess up this 1v1. And I think a lot of people would mess up this 1v1, mainly because they would try to take it into heal off, which is the incorrect call to make. You can see this Psycho guy getting a lot of kills down on low ground with a gold spaz. His options are either to play heal off or to go ahead and fight. And Chloe's options, she could play heal off, but it's much better to fight when you're up on high ground because you have that high ground peaks advantage. This guy doesn't know where Chloe is. You can obviously assume that she's probably in the storm circle right here. And instead, Chloe knows exactly where this guy is. She can right and peek, she can shoot first, and exactly what she does with attack, and she gets a nice free elim right there, and a really nice played game. Guys, winning games this season is quite difficult. There's a lot more RNG and things like that involved, but if you stop going for high ground the whole time, instead just focus on getting one good refresh on mid ground, the games become so much easier, and you have a really easy time of just making sure you're in a good position. And especially when you have good mid game fundamentals, you upgrade at the correct time, and you go ahead and actually get good positioning, you have a very, very easy time of having an advantage over opponents. So a lot of people don't know how to play this season at the moment.